In the past 2 years, China has made some big changes to how it talks about and deals with AI safety. Top artificial intelligence experts, mostly in Western countries, have been warning for a long time that AI could become so powerful in the future that it could actually threaten people. It has led to a whole new field of study and even the formation of AI safety groups in the US and UK. But until recently, no one knew for sure if China's leaders or experts agreed on these possible risks. It looks like China is now paying a lot more attention to AI safety. Research papers, official comments, and government reports keep coming out that show China is starting to really care about AI safety and is putting a lot of time and money into it. The best AI experts in China started it, and now the country's leaders seem to be on board as well. Back in July 2024, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, put out a major policy statement that called for the creation of oversight systems to ensure the safety of artificial intelligence. This was a big sign of this change. This could be a big step toward China making AI safety rules that are stricter. A lot of big questions still remain about what China is worried about when it comes to AI safety and what they plan to do about it. But the fact that Chinese politicians and researchers are paying more attention to these problems is a pretty big deal for the conversation around AI safety and how it's regulated around the world. China is the US's major rival in the race to make cutting-edge AI, and this competition has a big impact on AI progress around the world. China's leaders are very afraid of falling behind the US in AI, so they are working hard to catch up. Next-generation AI systems made in China will be affected by how China builds and manages them, including what risks they look for and what safety measures they put in place. This could have a big effect on AI safety all over the world. Before we look at the proof that China has changed its mind about AI safety, it's important to note that AI safety is still a very controversial issue in both politics and technology around the world. AI experts don't agree on whether or not advanced AI systems will ever be a real threat to people, and, if they will, when that might happen. Some people in policy circles think that talking about these possible future threats takes attention away from current AI problems, such as algorithms that are unfair in sentencing or AI being used for military reasons. We won't try to settle those arguments here. Instead, we'll talk about how China is changing its mind about the terrible risks AI could pose. A tricky language problem makes it harder to understand how China feels about AI safety. There are times when the Chinese word "angquan," which means safety, can also mean security. This makes it hard to tell when Chinese people are talking about the very high risks that come with AI safety or about bigger security problems like keeping AI systems safe or handling content that is sensitive to politics. Some experts use safety security instead of angquan when translating it to English so that it can mean both. This piece will do the same thing when it's not clear, but it will use safety or security when it's clear from the rest of the text. There is a lot of uncertainty in both the technology and the language, but there is more and more evidence that Chinese scientists and government officials are starting to see AI safety as a much more important problem. Around 2020, China's top scientists and thinkers began to worry about the safety of AI that was getting more advanced. Some of the best computer scientists and policy experts in the country started talking publicly about the safety risks of AI and doing research on how to stop them. Shen Gao, who runs a big AI lab and is a dean at Peking University, is a great early example. He wrote a study with someone else in 2021 about the possible risks of artificial general intelligence, AGI, and how to manage them. The main idea of the study was that AGI could get smarter over time, which could cause what is known as the intelligence explosion, in which AI would become much smarter than humans. Gao and his team say that if something like this happened, it would almost certainly be terrible if safety steps weren't in place. These points aren't new on their own. AI experts around the world have been arguing about similar ideas for a while now. What made Gao's work stand out, though, was how much he changed things. His advice to the Chinese government is very important, and he is also a very important person in the tech world. Gao is the only scientist who has led a study session on AI with the CCP's Politburo. He also serves on a number of high-level science and technology advisory groups. His study and talks on the subject were some of the first clear signs that some of China's most important scientists were beginning to think about the terrible problems AI could cause. It wasn't clear at first if these worries about AI safety were really moving from academic study to government discussions. High-level CCP leaders have said things like, "Ensure AI is safe, reliable, and controllable" for years. But it was clear that they were more concerned with national security and keeping control over AI systems than with the technical safety of the AI itself. In September 2021, there was the first real sign that the Chinese government might be beginning to pay attention to the risks of strong AI. Ethical Norms for New Generation Artificial Intelligence is the name of a document put out by the Ministry of Science and Technology's most official AI governance expert group. It listed 6 moral standards, and one of them was to ensure that AI is always under human control. This is a big issue when people talk about AI safety. Even though this was a strong message, it was still a form of soft law from a single minister and might not have been the official position of the CCP's top leaders. Over the next year, China put in place its first set of rules about AI, which were aimed at recommendation algorithms and deepfakes in particular. The Cyberspace Administration of China, CAC, which is China's main internet watchdog, put these out. They were mostly about controlling how AI is used to make and share content online. As part of the rules, AI providers had to do safety security evaluations of their algorithms. These evaluations were meant to stop the spread of politically sensitive content or to protect people's economic and social rights. So, these rules made some tools to help police AI, but they were mostly focused on content management and not on the bigger, more serious threats that AI could pose. At least for now, China's tech and policy talks didn't really touch on worries about very high risks. In the past 7 months, China has been using AI more and more in operations to spread false information and start fights around the world, according to a new study released on Friday by Microsoft Threat Intelligence. Microsoft has seen some important changes in how players backed by governments are changing their strategies. They are not only going after the same targets, but they are also using more advanced and complex methods. The Chinese influence groups in question have been trying out new types of media and getting better at using AI to create or improve content. The report pointed out that one of the main operations was the rise in AI-made material featuring Taiwanese politicians before the country's presidential and legislative elections in January 2024. A group with ties to the Chinese Communist Party called Storm 1376, also known as Spamouflage, used AI to make a fake audio tape that made it sound like Foxconn owner Terry Gou, who ran for president briefly, had backed another candidate when he hadn't. During Taiwan's election season, Microsoft also found that fake news reporters and memes made by AI were being used to trick people and change public opinion. A new study from Microsoft Threat Intelligence says this is the first time they've seen a nation-state actor, in this case China, try to influence an election in another country by using content made by AI. For example, there are elections coming up in India, South Korea, and the United States. The story says that Chinese and maybe even North Korean hackers will work harder to hack those too. In the past few months, China's efforts to gain power have gone beyond Taiwan. In August, the Chinese group Storm 1376 started a large-scale campaign in many languages. To spread lies, they used AI-made memes. The goal of this effort was to make people angry, especially in South Korea, about how Japan is getting rid of the nuclear waste from Fukushima. Microsoft said that Storm 1376 has been spreading conspiracy ideas that make people not trust the US government. They said on many websites that the Maui wildfires were caused by the US military trying a weather weapon after the fires happened in August of last year. To make the posts more dramatic, they even used pictures of fires made by AI. Following a train accident in Kentucky in November, Storm 1376 started a social media campaign saying that the event was planned by the US government, comparing it to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor conspiracy theories. Microsoft also pointed out that China is trying to meddle in US elections by using fake accounts, or sock puppets, that look like they are from the US. These accounts, which are sometimes helped by AI, mostly post about controversial topics like racism, climate change, drug use, immigration, and border policies. Microsoft thinks that these campaigns may be trying to find out what US voters care about most and which topics divide them the most by asking more and more questions and getting people's opinions. Microsoft said that there isn't much evidence to suggest that these processes have changed people's minds, even though they are getting smarter. Though, the study does warn that China's ongoing use of AI to improve memes, videos, and audio could get better over time. Concerns about AI safety became very important after ChatGPT came out in late 2022. By early 2023, these problems were being talked about more in China. The Beijing Academy of Artificial Intelligence held a full-day conference on frontier AI safety in June 2023. Some of China's best computer scientists met with their Western counterparts to talk about the issue. A lot of important people in China's AI community started talking about AI safety around this time. These people included the Dean of the Beijing Academy of Artificial Intelligence, the former president of Baidu, and most importantly, Andrew Yao from Tsinghua University. People in the field of computer science talk about Andrew Yao all the time. He was born in China and spent 30 years at some of the best universities in the United States. For his groundbreaking work, he won the Turing Award, which is often called the Nobel Prize of Computer Science. He went back to China in 2004 to become a dean at Tsinghua University, where he formed the Yao class, which is very selective. Graduates of this program have gone on to run some of the world's best AI startups and do cutting-edge study all over the world. Yao is probably the most recognized computer scientist in China, and his views on AI safety carry immense influence in both academic and policy circles. Around 2020, Andrew Yao started talking about AI safety in public. By 2023, he was talking about it more often and with more urgency. Some of his most important comments happened with other well-known AI experts from around the world. Yao wrote a paper with Geoffrey Hinton, Yoshua Bengio, and other Turing Award winners in October 2023. It was called Managing Extreme AI Risks Amid Rapid Progress. Lan Shui joined them. He is a major figure in China's technology policy and chairs the advice group for the Ministry of Science and Technology, MOST, which put out a report on AI ethics in 2021. Unchecked AI advancement could lead to a large-scale loss of life, harm the environment, and even threaten humanity's survival, the paper said in a pretty clear way. It pointed out important areas where safety-related technical research is needed and asked big tech companies to spend a third of their AI research funds on safety. Soon after this study came out, Yao and 3 other well-known Chinese scientists went to the first meeting of the International Dialogues on AI Safety, IDAS, and signed a statement together that talked about how to deal with the risks that come with advanced AI. When it comes to policy discussions, senior scientists and academics in China often have more power than their American peers. In the US, tech executives usually lead conversations about AI policy. In China, however, business leaders don't have as much power over public discourse. Instead, academics have more weight in government advice panels and have a big say in how policies are made. A lot of China's best scientists started to warn about the dangers of AI, so the government and the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, started making comments that were clearer and stronger about AI safety. In October 2023, Chinese President Xi Jinping announced the Global AI Governance Initiative. This was a short statement that laid out China's main ideas for how AI should be governed internationally. One of its main points was a call to ensure that AI always remains under human control. This was similar to language used in a document by the Ministry of Science and Technology, MOST, on ethical AI principles. This support from the top leaders of the CCP made the concept even more important. A few weeks later, Wu Zhahui, who was Vice Minister of MOST at the time and had been an AI expert before, was sent by China to the UK's AI Safety Summit. There, China signed the Bletchley Declaration with 28 other countries, including the US and the EU. The declaration talked about the dangers of advanced AI systems and stressed the need for countries to work together to solve these problems. Even though going to the summit and signing the declaration were big steps, they didn't prove beyond a doubt that the top levels of CCP leadership were putting AI safety first. The Bletchley Declaration didn't give members any new duties, and China had its own reasons for taking part. Chinese officials have often said they are worried about being left out of talks about international governance. So, whether Chinese leaders agreed with the worries in the declaration or not, signing it was a smart way for Beijing to keep its power on the world stage. In the end, it wasn't clear if these steps were really meant to protect AI or were just a smart geopolitical move. During 2024, China's professional and policy communities talked more and more about how to keep AI safe. In March, Beijing held the second IDs dialogue, which brought together top Chinese and Western scientists to make a joint statement outlining important lines that cutting-edge AI research should not cross. Notable signatories included Andrew Yao and other well-known scientists, as well as business leaders like Peng Zhang, CEO of Jipu AI, the biggest large model startup in China. After only 2 months, Jipu made news when it was the first Chinese company to sign the Frontier AI Safety Commitments at the AI Seoul Summit in South Korea. This promise put them in line with many other large foreign AI companies that also promised to make their big models safer. The International Scientific Report on the Safety of Advanced AI was made public at the same meeting. The UK government asked Yoshua Bengio to lead the study, and Yao and Yaxin Zhang another famous Chinese scientist, were in charge of it. At the same time that these public comments were made, Chinese scientists stepped up their technical research into new AI safety problems. They looked into important issues, like how to align and make sure that advanced AI systems are strong, often using safety research done at Western universities as a starting point. It's interesting that most of this work came from top Chinese universities. In contrast to their American counterparts, China's top AI companies haven't written much on safety. In July 2024, at the World AI Conference, WAIC, in Shanghai, China, which is the biggest AI event of the year, safety was given a lot of attention. Top players in China's AI community have talked about the technical and legal basis of AI safety in both public and private settings. The opinions on the subject were very different. Wen Gao didn't think much about AGI, but Andrew Yao and Bowen Zhou, who was making his public debut as the director and top scientist of the state-affiliated Shanghai AI Lab, said that AI research should quickly shift its focus to safety. The Shanghai AI Lab has become a major center for technical study on AI safety, and they have also started writing policy papers to go along with their findings. The lab released a study at WAE called AI Safety as Global Public Goods, which it wrote with important policy experts. This study asked governments to see the results of AI safety research, such as risk assessment tools and resource libraries, as public goods that should be funded by the government and shared widely through international networks of safety-focused groups. Overall, the meeting brought to light the deeper and more complex conversations that have been happening about AI safety over the past 2 years. A few weeks later, in a key policy document from the third plenary session, a big meeting of top CCP leaders held every 5 years to set China's economic and social policies, the leaders made an important comment about AI safety. In the part about threats to public safety and security, the leaders asked for the creation of oversight systems to ensure the safety of artificial intelligence. This is what the official English translation says. Set up an AI safety supervision and regulation system might be a more clear translation from the Chinese. An important policy paper was used to push for oversight of AI safety. This was a big step forward, but it also brought up a lot of questions. What exact threats to the safety of AI does the CCP care about? What kind of control do they plan to give these systems? The paper itself and the official comments that came after it can both teach us something. What this clause says about AI safety in the third plenary paper gives us our first clue about how the CCP feels about it. It's in a bigger part on threats to national security, under the heading Public Security Governance. This part stresses how important it is for China to improve its emergency response systems, which include things like preventing, mitigating, and helping people after a disaster. Notably, AI safety is talked about along with other major threats to public health and safety, like the safety of food and drugs, and the systems that keep an eye on biosafety and biosecurity. The call for an AI safety oversight system comes right after a vague mention of making cybersecurity stronger. This suggests that the CCP is worried about big threats to public safety, like natural disasters or health problems. It's important to note that AI safety in this case does not mean worries about content made by generative AI, which is briefly talked about in a different part. In the weeks after this paper came out, the CCP put out more information to help people understand what it meant, but these gave mixed messages about how safe AI is in general. An official explainer talked about some of the risks that AI poses, like how it might affect employment, privacy, and international relations, but it didn't go into detail about the types of frontier AI safety risks that are usually talked about in Western settings. But later, an opinion piece in the People's Daily, which is the official newspaper of the CCP, talked about the safety risks of advanced AI systems, echoing worries that have been talked about in Western AI safety talks. It talked about how dangerous big models could be, and asked for more study into frontier safety technology and the creation of new ways to make general-purpose large models safe and easy to control. There are different sides to the CCP's approach to AI safety in the plenum vote and the documents that came after it. They show that the CCP is thinking about AI safety risks in terms of large-scale threats to public safety and seems to be taking steps to deal with those risks. But for now, it's still not clear what risks the CCP is worried about or what technology and legal steps need to be taken to reduce them. How the Chinese government carries out these high-level calls for AI safety measures will help us understand this better. One important thing to keep an eye on is whether China will strengthen current institutions or make new ones whose sole purpose is to ensure the safety of cutting-edge AI. Already, there are a few well-known labs that do expert reviews and safety work. Some of them are connected to the state. The results from these labs might be used to make rules that require model makers to check for certain risks. Setting up groups like the AI Safety Institutes, AISI, that were created in the US and UK last year would send an even stronger message. The idea behind AISI is fairly new and flexible, but its main goal is to test and evaluate cutting-edge AI systems for safety risks. These institutes are working with their foreign counterparts to set up a way for people to share information about new risks and testing methods. The Chinese government hasn't said anything publicly yet about making an AI safety institute, but rumors have been going around since 2024 that important people and groups in China's AI community are pushing for one, and it looks like the government is giving this idea a lot of thought. Even so, there are still big problems to solve. China probably won't just copy the way institutions work in the US and UK. There are different parts of the Chinese government that want to be in charge of AI governance. This means that creating a new entity would take a lot of political negotiations and building consensus. If China does decide to make such an AI safety institution or coordinating body, the decisions made about its mission, leadership, and bureaucratic power will show a lot about how the government feels about this issue and what its top priorities are. Many people are worried about AI safety, but China's leaders are still very scared about falling behind the US in advanced AI. Failing to develop is the greatest threat to security, is a saying they often use. With this motto, they are constantly reminded of how important it is to improve their AI. But because people's views on the risks of cutting-edge AI are changing, it's likely that safety efforts will grow along with these powers. No matter what China does next, it will likely be hard for countries to work together on AI safety. China and the US are both wary of each other's intentions in this area, which makes sense. Also, there will be a hard-fought race to be the first to create AI systems that are both powerful and possibly dangerous. Because of the competition, it doesn't look like there will be any binding international deals on how to regulate frontier AI. Still, even if it's hard to reach big decisions, there might still be ways to work together technically to deal with certain transnational safety risks. For some high-tech items, there are safety features that countries that are at odds with each other would want to have. This way of thinking helped form agreements made during the Cold War between the US and the USSR to share security technologies that would keep nuclear bombs from going off by accident. There isn't a similar safety system for AI yet, and even if one were made, it would be hard for people to work together because of technical, strategic, and political issues. But a big first step toward any kind of cooperation would be for everyone to see a common threat. This seems to be getting closer now than it was a year ago.